Are we fired up? Are we going to unseat Stephen Crabb? Are we going to bring down this Tory government? Yes, we are. That's what today is all about. It's about building a movement from below, full of optimism, full of determination. What did the Tories think? That they'd just get away with it? That this country could be plunged into disaster because of the financial firms that bankroll them? And that disabled people would pick up the tab? That low-paid workers would have their in-work benefits slashed? That millions of people would suffer declining wages and living standards? That our NHS would be decimated? That our education system would suffer severe cuts? That the housing wouldn't be built? That people would be driven into misery? That old people would shiver in their homes? And they thought they'd get away with it. But they were wrong. They were wrong because people like you came out and said, enough is enough is enough. There is an alternative after all. And what we saw in that election campaign was hope. Hope broke out across this country. That's why Labour ended up winning seats it's never won in its entire history, like the People's Republic of Kensington, the Socialist Republic of Canterbury, places that the Tories have in some cases ruled since the 19th century. And it just shows that if we have an inspiring message, that if we have an inspiring alternative, then we can turn things around. And that was just the beginning. That was just the start. Because now across the country, like constituencies such as this, Tory seats now are marginals, like Boris Johnson, the international laughingstock, the bigot, the liar that is Boris Johnson. His majority was 10,000 in 2015. But now, because of people like yourself, his majority is just 5,000. And when an election is called, we're going to kick Boris Johnson out. It's going to happen. Like Ian Duncan Smith, who has, it's like panto this, isn't it? Who has brutalised disabled people, who has driven them into misery, who has slashed their benefits, who has subjected them to degrading work capability assessments, who has forced low-paid workers to have their in-work benefits slashed. His majority fell from 8,500 to 2,500, and next time round, because we're campaigning, we're going to kick Ian Duncan Smith out of Parliament. Like Philip Davies in Shipley, a bigot who filibusters, who talks out legislation dealing with violence against girls and women. His majority went from 9,000 to 4,500, and in the next general election, we're going to kick him out of Parliament as well. Like Amber Rudd. Amber Rudd. Ooh, it's not looking good, Amber. It's not looking good at all. Her majority, a measly 326 by her fingernails, and next time round, because of our campaigning, because of our determination, we're going to win Hastings and Rye and kick Amber Rudd out of Parliament. And then there's a small matter of Preseli, Pembrokeshire. Stephen Crabb, where do you begin? A man who voted against equal rights for LGBTQ people, who voted for the hated bedroom tax, which forces disabled people to pay up money they don't have or be kicked out. A man who voted for the privatisation of our public services, who voted to slash taxes on the rich. A man who voted to saddle young people who dared to dream to an education with tens of thousands of pounds worth of debt. And in the next general election, because of people like you, talking to your friends, your colleagues, your neighbours, strangers, knocking on doors, because of all that, at the next general election, we're going to kick Stephen Crabb out of Parliament. He's going to be unseated. He's going to be unseated because of you. And that's the reality with this Tory government, who just a few months ago were drunk on their own triumphalism, who thought they'd rule forever, that they'd carry on slashing our services, handing out more money to the rich financiers, bankroll, rigging society in favour of those vested interests. But now what's happening to them? Fighting amongst themselves like rats in a sack. With Theresa May, and there's no pity for her, a woman who sent racist vans telling people to go home around ethnically mixed communities, a person who has scapegoated immigrants over and over again. No pity for her, but she's being held hostage because they don't have anyone else to replace her with, and they know it. And that's why their time is running out. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. In the coming months and in the coming years, we'll see them shredding themselves to pieces. But people will continue to suffer every single day they're in power. Their wages will fall and stagnate. Their education services will be slashed. Young people will still keep being saddled with debt for daring to dream for a university education from which we all benefit. We've got to do everything we can to kick them out. And instead, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build a different sort of society. It's not about changing government. It's not just about changing government. It's about building a new society. A society that is not run in favour of tax dodgers and bankers and poverty-paying bosses, but a society run in the interests of you, of the real wealth creators, of working people, that gives a voice to all of those, from disabled people to others who have been demonised and scapegoated for the last few years. We're going to ask the rich, the booming wealthy, to pay up more money so we can invest in our services and unleash everyone's potential. We're going to introduce a genuine living wage. Nobody should earn their poverty, and yet millions of people do. They get up in the morning, they work hard, they graft, and they come home with a pay packet that doesn't even let them look after themselves, let alone their families. We will abolish in-work poverty. We will build the housing that people need, not rubbish housing, decent, affordable, comfortable housing that people can settle down and have families in. We're going to build that housing. We're going to abolish tuition fees so young people are no longer saddled with debt for daring to dream for an education. And what we're going to do with our utilities, which at the moment are run by private profiteers and foreign governments that aren't accountable to the people of this country, we're going to bring energy, water and rail under the democratic public ownership of this country. They belong to us. They're ours. And we're going to take them back. That's the sort of society we can build. It's common sense. It's not extreme or radical. It's common sense. That instead of a society that is based on profit for a few, it should be one that puts people's needs and aspirations at the absolute centre. Some might call it a socialist society, a democratic socialist society. That's the order we're going to build. And just to wrap up, I know this square, this is the first rally since 1908, when the suffragettes rallied. It's worth remembering this. It's worth remembering that all the change we have, every right and every freedom we have, was not given to us as an act of generosity or charity by the powerful. It was won because of people like you fought for it with determination and resilience, like the early trade unionists who fought for the rights and security of working people. Like the Chartists, the world's first great working class political movement that fought for the rights of working men to run their own country or have a say. The suffragettes, demonised and reviled in their time, called anarchists and terrorists, dragged from protests, thrown into dirty cells with tubes forced down their noses. The people who fought for the welfare state and the NHS in the teeth of overwhelming opposition from the powerful. Those who fought racism and sexism and homophobia, who were battened and spat at in the streets and humiliated by our press. All of those people. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Everything we have, not given to us, but won because of people from below who were hated and reviled and humiliated and demonised and persecuted. We stand on their shoulders. And it was people like you and your mothers and your fathers and your grandmothers and your grandfathers before that, your ancestors, those were the people who built this country up. And it is up to us not just to defend the rights and freedoms they fought for at such cost often taken away, sometimes without even a murmur. Not just to defend those rights and freedoms, but to continue the battle they've begun by building a new society. So let's have the same determination, the same resilience. Crabb must go. We're going to unseat him. We're going to unseat Boris Johnson, Ian Duncan Smith, Amber Rudd, and we're going to bring this government down and build a new society. So let's get out there, campaigning, full of hope, full of optimism, and let's build a new Wales and a new Britain. Solidarity.